If you want to force an outcome, you apply pressure. We treat modern success like a mechanical equation, operating under the assumption that achieving our goals requires a rigid grip, a top-down chain of command, and the aggressive dissection of every problem. The math on that approach eventually breaks down. When we rely solely on torque and tension to manage our careers and our lives, the measurable results are severe psychological burnout and massive systemic friction. The machine overheats. 2.5 millennia ago, a philosophical countermeasure proposed the exact opposite approach. The Tao Te Ching, an ancient Chinese text that forms the foundation of philosophical Taoism, framed supreme power not as the application of force, but as the total absence of it. Curious, the text poses a seemingly impossible problem. How can mastering absolute internal stillness and becoming entirely receptive guarantee ultimate harmony in the physical external world? To attain true agency over our environment, we have to do the hardest thing possible. We have to completely unlearn our most deeply ingrained instinct to clench our fists. The philosophy starts at the smallest possible magnification, the internal geography of an individual's breath and consciousness. The first requirement is a state the text calls embracing the one. This is the physiological practice of unifying the body and the mind, syncing physical sensation with conscious thought so they no longer operate in opposition. Next comes the softening of the qi. Qi is the circulating life energy inherent in all living things. The practitioner must calm this vital breath until it returns to a state of pure, unconditioned potential, highly adaptable and entirely flexible, much like the physical state of an infant. This animated diagram illustrates the accompanying cognitive task, referred to as wiping the profound mirror. Shedding modern cognitive biases and preconceived judgments is required because a dirty mirror distorts the reflection. You cannot perceive reality accurately if your lens is clouded by your own assumptions. If a practitioner's internal state remains fractured and noisy, any attempt to master the external world is mathematically impossible. The internal static will always corrupt the outward action. Pulling the scale back, we move from the self to the societal level. Here, leadership becomes the direct external application of that newly cleansed internal state. This chart shows the modern instinct for governance, a structure of rigid micromanagement. The ancient approach directly contrasts this, suggesting a system is best guided without directly interfering in its mechanics. Governing an organization or state requires that same infant-like mindset. A leader's role is defined as nourishing the populace, creating an environment where the network thrives on its own, rather than exploiting its nodes for specific outputs. To maintain this, a leader must abandon what the text calls cunning knowledge. Leading through manipulation, over-intellectualization, or endless policy tweaks introduces artificial friction that inevitably breaks the societal structure. Enduring societal order is not manufactured by a leader's heavy-handed intervention. It emerges naturally as a direct byproduct of their disciplined restraint. Expanding outward once more, the philosophy reaches its final scale, the ultimate environment, the cosmos itself. The text describes the gates of heaven opening and closing. This is a metaphor for the inescapable, oscillating rhythms of nature, specifically yin and yang. Yin and yang is the ancient Chinese concept describing how opposite forces, like light and dark, or expansion and contraction, are entirely interdependent. To successfully synchronize with these massive universal forces, rather than fighting them, the practitioner adopts the female or yielding posture. You absorb the momentum of the universe instead of striking against it. We have a modern habit of aggressive truth-seeking, tearing ideas apart to understand them. Yet universal clarity and understanding of all four directions is achievable only through passive, quiet observation. Profound comprehension of the universe requires the practitioner to completely surrender the ego-driven urge to conquer it. The internal, civic, and cosmic scales interact, not as separate realms, but as identical mechanics operating at different magnifications. This unified state is defined by a meta-concept known as xuan de, or mystic virtue, a profound, unassuming power perfectly aligned with the natural order. In a modern context, the first half of the text's final definition teaches us to create and nourish. You can build a project, launch a business, or raise a child without demanding ownership over the entity you brought into being. The second half of the definition explains the mechanics of action itself. You take decisive steps without tying your personal identity to the outcome. You guide the people around you without exerting dominion over their choices. True power is not the capacity to force your will upon the world. It is the discipline to facilitate life, to set the conditions for growth, while entirely removing your ego from the equation.